And I took her to a David meetup and
Oh,
Moss did a little reiki on her and helped her out for a week,
hmm.
which was really cool.
Very awesome.
So are you going to be our guest speaker?
Host
I am the host. The
with the most.
official TSWB just has stepped in at the perfect time. Amazing timing, TJ. We literally just went live on YouTube. All yours.
The signal here is not so amazing, so I'm not sure how long I'm going to make it, but I figured I would at least drop in and thank you so much for hosting tonight.
Happy to do it. Yes, very happy to do it. Do you want me to go or you to go? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Hello and
How are those
welcome
margaritas down
to
in Cancun?
the TSWB. Ooh, how are the margaritas, TJ? We are all curious.
Cold and plentiful.
Yes.
That sounds awesome. So welcome to the
Told you the
triple
signal.
teat. What's that?
Told you the signal's not very good here. We'll
I
probably
know.
get dropped, but I again just wanted
Okay.
to stop in and thank you again. And I let everybody know that I know they're in great hands. Hello from Cancun. Enjoy the show. Looking forward to watching the recording whenever I get a chance.
Enjoy vacation. Hello, you amazing people. We hope you are all doing well. For those of you that cannot see, there are a number of people on the screen, and their screen just doesn't happen to show up here live on YouTube. And this is Triple T number 128. I am your guest host. I was going to say spontaneous, but it's definitely not spontaneous. This is quite planned. So, welcome to Triple T. And I am super glad that this was planned because I have topics for you people. So, if at any point you would like to come join us, you're welcome to join us live on the YouTube chat, as I do have that up. And you're also welcome to pop into the Zoom room and bring your topics for the second hour. During the first hour, we have a variety of topics that we like to cover and enjoy. And it's really just whatever the host comes up with and feels inspired to share that week. And boy, oh boy, has my brain been busy. And on the second hour, definitely have your questions prepared because this is a buffet and we all bring appetizers. And just like any appetizer tray, we like to have a variety. So please bring your appetizer of questions to the party, type them in the chat, or be sure to have them ready to go for our second hour. And my first question for all of you, which I am going to spin the tables a little bit, is what are you most proud of that occurred over the last 7 days? And this could be, hey, I made my bed and I'm thrilled. Or this can be, hey, I did whatever and I'm thrilled. So, what are each of you most proud of or most excited about that occurred since last Tuesday? Oh, yeah, I'm putting you on the spot. Light squirrels, light chipmunks, mountain
I'll
play.
jump in real fast. Uh, it's definitely a me thing, but I got to do an Excel spreadsheet that I was very proud of. So, yes, always happy when I get to touch base with that.
Love that. Super, super excited for you. And you, my dear, are amazing at those Excel spreadsheets. You have that brain that can just organize them, and mine's more like paint by number. So I love that you have that. Super, super stoked for you. Anybody else? What are you most proud of? What are you most excited about that occurred over the last week? Go for it, Mark.
Well, again, as I was explaining earlier, I kind of was able to help a couple today by cobbling something. I got a download from the universe, as Dr. David likes to say, um, of a way to help them communicate better and to connect and to turn something into a healthy communication. And yeah, I got kind of pumped by that. That was I didn't have it going in, and as the session progressed, it kind of all just kind of came together. So sometimes it works like that.
That is super exciting. Do you want to share the really cool thing that you were encouraging them to share with each other? Because you did get to tell me and the lovely Holly earlier.
Well, the I concept I learned many moons ago when I was working at the institution from an OTR. She talked about unconditional positive regard, and their communication. I made it a competition rather than who's right and who's wrong. I made the competition of who can best agree and who can best get along. So any communication for the next week is going to start, I love you, but what you just said made me feel X, whether it be anger, sad, whatever. Did you mean to make me feel, that feeling by what it's verifying the communication. Did you intend to make me feel angry at what because what you just said made me feel X, but it's okay because that's what I love about you. And, so every interaction between them is they're going to have to keep score who can best agree and who can best get along. And then I sent them on their way.
Wow. That is super cool. I love that unconditional positive regard. And I love that you also shared that they're noticing and they're naming and they're acknowledging how they're feeling, and they're also still saying it in a way that's respectful. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. So quickly, we're quick to shift that tone. And the fact that you really, I think those words truly help. Unconditional positive regard. You can tell the sincerity in that.
And so I made it a game for them to play, again, and because that's the only competition that you should exist within a relationship is who can best agree and who can best get along.
Who can best agree? Who can best get along? That's amazing. Loving this. Awesome. Super, super excited for you. And I love that you were proud of it and that you're excited by it. Congratulations. Woohoo, big win. Anybody else? Do you want to pop on and share what you're excited about, what you're most proud of in the last week? I know that there are a few people popping in from the Zoom room. Thank you for dealing with my waiting room status. Anybody else want to share what they're super proud of or really excited about? All right. If you want, you're welcome to pop it in the chat. The other day, I went out into the woods for a walk with my husband, and one of the things that he and I often talk about is how much we enjoy being outdoors. And I, to a very certain extent, love a good challenge. And the challenge that we were talking about, and he's like, we just jog for a little bit. And I was like, that's unusual. Sure, let's give it a go. And I have previously watched I love watching YouTube videos of trail runners and other people that really just get in the moment and really go for those physical challenges. And that was something that was quite a physical challenge. And I am super proud of. Went out and ran on a trail 7 miles. I was pretty excited about that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, my legs are sore and still Tuesday, and this happened Sunday. But I am super, super excited. And I love finding ways that we can push ourselves a little bit. Trust me, guys, I'm not going into boot camp by any means. Cannot hack that. I am very positive. Somebody screaming in my face. I can't do it. Super proud of the people that can. That is not one way that I respond well. But it was such an invitation of like, let's just see how far we go, that I was really, really invited to be a part of it. And it felt something that was really good. So what are some challenges that you've watched and you thought, I couldn't do that? Did I do that? Anybody ever experienced that? What are some challenges that they notice that they might possibly want to explore in the right place at the right time with the right people? Any ideas? I like that I'm getting the question mark looks. I feel like I'm allowing you guys to process this. I found something else really cool. So I think about failure quite a bit. And I think about when I'm trying to get to a goal and it's not happening and it's not happening and I keep going just another step, just keep going. Or should I pivot? And I can spin my wheels for a little bit and really focus on it's not working here, so let me just spin around here for a while rather than thinking take the next step. Just take the next step. And not with everything, and definitely not for quite a while. Have I been like, that's it, I'm done. I've definitely done that. That's it, I'm done. I've thrown my hands up and walked away. But over the last number of years, I really do try to stick with things. And I was at a baseball game, and where I live in I live near Wilkes-Barre, and the team that is here is the step down from the New York Yankees. So the New York Yankees will quite literally pull from the team that happens to be in my area. And as I was sitting there watching the baseball game, they put up their averages, their batting averages, and it's like 0.256, 0.275, 0.400, 0.172. And they all vary back and forth. And I keep thinking, these people have quite literally been so passionate about it. And they kept pushing so much that even when their batting average is lower, even when they're not doing that great, never once did I see any of the players throw their mitt down and go, that's it, I quit baseball. I'm done. And I thought that was really interesting because how many times can we just be like, that's it, I'm done? Granted, these people are much more invested in something, but the fact that we are so, especially think about personal growth, we're so invested in wanting to help ourselves and wanting to help other people that even when we have those challenging clients or even when we have those challenging moments in going on in our own personal life, never have we been like, that's it, I'm done with these ideas, I'm done with these thoughts, or goodbye, and peaced out. And I think that's really, really goes to show how passionate we can be about something and how, even though it's tough, even though you're sitting in the suck sometimes, that you still find a way to pick up the baseball bat and try again and pick up and try again and pick up and try again. And it really is just something I found very, very inspiring. What are your thoughts? What do you think? What was inspiring about it?
I'll jump in. Sorry, I'm like, my words are kind of muddled a little bit here, but I'll see if I can.
Is it from me or is it from me?
No, in a good way. Because
okay.
I'm thinking about stuff, but it's still forming, if that makes sense.
Yes, that does make sense.
So, first of all, one of the things that actually came up last night with the group I was talking to, one of the things we were talking about is, because there's that old saying, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. But one of the things they were talking about is the importance of actually taking the feedback and applying it. Because often people are just like, oh, I just need to keep trying, but they keep trying the same way over and over again, running into the brick wall, because they're not taking a moment to take a step back and say, okay, if it didn't work out the way I expected it to, what specifically, can I change with my next attempt? What specifically can I take away from this?
Yeah.
So that was a big one. Another thing that kind of came to my mind is just the idea of taking, bite-sized chunks of whatever you're doing. We had a player on our basketball team that when he was recruited, and not everything he does is great, but whatever. But this particular area I liked. When he was recruited, he was the worst free throw shooter on the team, but he had all these other great skills, which is why they recruited him. But he just decided every single year he was going to take the weakest part of his game and just work on it all through the off season. And by the time he retired, he was one of the best free throw shooters on the entire team. And, he was always improving an area of his game. And I just thought that, like I said, his attitude towards the game, not necessarily towards life, but his attitude toward the game, I just love that idea of I'm always improving. I'm always finding an area. And I'm going to look at my Achilles heel and I'm going to make what was my weakness become my strength. And I thought that was really cool.
That is incredible. His attitude toward his weakness. Is that what you had mentioned? I know, he just popped on mute.
Oh yeah. So his attitude that I'm going to take whatever is my greatest weakness and I'm going to turn it into a strength. I'm always looking for where's my Achilles heel and how can I turn it into a strength?
That is amazing. That reminds me of what you guys were saying a couple weeks ago, especially about challenges. And when people look at is it a problem or is it a challenge? And I know Mark was like this, and also TJ, about really noticing them, but also getting excited by them because it was something to work toward overcoming. That is super cool. Go for it, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't allow that word into my psyche. I don't have problems. I have challenges. And, again, what you were talking about, again, earlier, Laura, is, again, resilience is that bounce back, when you're trying to move forward, and you get knocked down, and then your baseball metaphor. I said, if you strike out, if you're a baseball player, in the minor leagues, major, and you strike out 7 out of every 10 times, you end up in the Hall of Fame because you're a career 300 hitter.
Yeah.
You don't have to get a hit every time, and sometimes, again, there is no failure. There are only benchmarks, and sometimes you have to chunk, again, that I think that came from Dr. David, and then chunking down, if you run up against something that, and what Holly was saying about sometimes you have to chunk down into smaller steps. The free throw shooting. There was a study done at Harvard. I'm sorry, I'm going on and on, but they took 100 kids, divided them up, gave half of them basketballs, and let them practice for a couple hours, and they took the other half and brought this amazing free throw shooter, varsity player, and they taught them how mental rehearsal, because and on how to shoot, how to hold your hands, and then after a couple hours, they put them all together, and the ones who had been practicing mentally their entire time far outdid the ones who were practicing in the gym, because all they had been rehearsing for 2 hours was success. They were not, so they were, so they never even entertained, failure. All they were doing was practicing success. And when it came to the competition at the end, they far outscored the other 50 students, because that's all they had been practicing for 2 hours.
Does this kind of go hand in hand with, and I'm pretty sure Holly would know this one off the top of her head, about the piano lesson one, where they quite literally would rehearse piano, but this also, I think, goes hand in hand with people who imagine themselves lifting a weight in the gym versus actually lifting a weight in the gym, and the difference that there is quite a significant difference. Holly, it's right on par with that, right? I'm pretty sure. I know I'm making you come off mute.
This is
I gotta find that mute button again.
I mean, what you're saying sounds right. I know what you're talking about. The details are a little bit fuzzy to me, but yes.
Same, but it sounds quite similar, and I love that. And another thing that I love is, I talk about it a lot, and it's hilarious because of hindsight being 2020. I love language, and I love words, and I love playing with words, and I love listening to people's vocabulary, because some people love the word failure. It's very clear for them. They know their marker, and it helps them move forward. And their fear of failure and that word and that intensity will light them up. My husband is definitely one of them, where he was in the military and he was studying to make sure that he had passed a specific exam. And he was so afraid of failing that all he did was keep studying. And he was very clear. And even in his vocabulary, he'll use the word failure. I'm somebody who does not like the word failure. And it really just goes to how we've experienced that word and how we've associated things with that word. And I love that you Mark, what words you take right out of your vocabulary. And I think that's awesome. You said, I don't allow that word in my vocabulary. And I think that's a great thing, especially problems. That's the word that you don't allow. And you see them as challenges. It's also really interesting when you listen to other people talk and they go, oh, the problem with that is, you're like, oh, I know for sure you are somebody who seeks problems, versus somebody who's asking questions, and you're like, oh, you're a curious individual. You keep liking to see a different perspective, and how else might it work? And I think it is super significant. And I'm curious, could shifting your vocabulary quite literally also shift your hairline? You know how people who are really good at a variety of things, what do you think, Mark? People who are really good at a variety of things, they have a different hairline versus people who and they can take magic here and they can bring magic into the centerpiece. And I'm wondering if you quite literally shift your behavior, would that also be that would have to be something else that you'd shift because we shift our lines, we shift our nose, we shift all these features on our face.
Your language reflects your reality. And, if you listen to someone, you can pretty much get a pretty good, figure out their style and how they use the language in a certain way, and that factors into the submodalities, if someone is, visual, yeah, I can see it that way, or if they're auditory, even gustatory, I love that challenge. I can take a bite out of that,
Oh, that's a good
again,
one.
yeah.
Nice.
And
I don't think I paid attention to that one.
if you are olfactory, it's like, oh yeah, that stinks, oh, that smells bad, again,
Super
it's
fun.
like, our language reflects our reality.
Mm-hmm.
And and like I said, I don't even know what that word problem means. I say it, but it's like I'm speaking in a foreign language.
Yeah.
I totally deleted that, because a problem is something you stick in a drawer because you don't want to look at it. You put it
Oh, that's a good
aside.
one. Yeah.
You close the door because you don't want to deal with it. But people love challenges. It's like, how much energy, effort, and resources am I going to devote? So, as a rule of thumb, people love challenges. They hate problems.
Yeah. That's a really
So,
good point. What's so
yeah.
interesting because I am so not a competitive person. I am very I'm cheering as we're watching this baseball game. Each team that is doing a good job, I'm cheering for both teams. And my husband's like, Lenore, you have to pick a team. And I'm like, but I'm just cheering for this sport. And he goes, you would. Like, that's just me. I tend to do that. I tend to just cheer and be happy for people who are winning at whatever you're excelling at. Going back to the words. So here's something that has recently come up. And I know I've talked about Bashar on here a couple of times. And when I listen to some of the insights that he shares and the videos that I come across, it makes a lot of sense to me. And I might have to listen to it a couple of times to really understand it. But the biggest one that has come into my vocabulary is I choose, or why are you choosing? And this has been so pivotal for me for the last week that even as I was doing some clearing work and I was thinking to myself, and in this clearing work, I was with a very young version of myself. And Bashar pops right into my head, apparently, and is now a part of my conversation and goes, why are you choosing to buy into that? And this is what it was. It was about money and it was about feeling selfish. And that no matter which way I was asking my younger self about money and feeling selfish, no response was coming. No effective response that I could navigate through was coming. And Bashar ends up stepping into my head and goes, why are you choosing that? Why are you choosing to buy into that thought? And I thought, wow, that was just such one that kept expanding. And I should have probably come with a caution because if you pick this up, you're going to hear it a lot and you're going to start questioning a lot of your own thoughts. But in certain situations, why are you choosing to buy into this belief? This belief that somebody had passed you, and very specifically, the belief that somebody had passed me was that accepting money was selfish. And for as many ways as I've navigated around that over the last number of years, that was the sentence that completely stop this younger version of myself. Why are you choosing to buy into that? As if you're quite literally buying your beliefs. Oh, yes, this one I agree with. Oh, no, I don't agree with that one. You take it back. And almost like trading cards or something or coupons. I'm not quite sure. If it works for you, by all means, I invite you to try this and notice, especially those beliefs and those thoughts that we have that are really stubborn. And when you reflect and you go, why am I choosing to buy into this? Whose permission do I need to buy into this? Of which, guys, I did a presentation yesterday. I had 2 speaking events yesterday. in my head, I call them presentations, but they are 2 speaking events. And let me see if I can pop this into the chat. I came up with what I affectionately refer to now as the shift protocol. And I'm putting it in the chat so that everyone can see it. And it was just something that really I found to be helpful. So when we're having this is where the shift protocol came from. It was all from why are you choosing to believe this? So in the shift protocol, I have it on the hand, and these are a variety of questions that have truly, truly helped me navigate through some very stubborn thought processes. And several of these questions were TJ had asked me when we were doing some work together. He had asked me, what's a really specific one? Whose permission do you need? And I was like, wow. So the shift method, the shift protocol is you spot it, S, H, you hear it. So spot it, become aware of the thought. You hear it. Identify whose voice is behind this thought. Is it yours or is it someone else's? And that one is huge. I actually recently was doing this with a client, and when I had asked them, especially when it comes to the inner critic, I said, well, whose voice is it that you're hearing? And they said, oh, mine for sure. And I said, okay, just take a little bit closer of a look. Who else's voice might be attached to this? And they went, oh. And you can see the gear shift that starts to happen when they really start to notice, is this mine or did I pick this up from somebody else? So hearing it and really noticing where this voice is coming from, not necessarily, and I know our NLP and the other things that are around us will often think, oh, is it coming from my right, my left? Is it behind me? Quite literally, a lot of the time, people are just saying, it's in my head. When you hear it, whose voice is it? Whose, my Z sounds over here. Is there any other voice that might be attached to this voice? Because whose is it? Keeps going, bleh. This is speech pathologist in me. All right. So we had S for spot. We had H for hear. We have I for investigate. Evaluate whether the thought is helping you or holding you back. Is this a serving thought? Is this one that you're finding to be effective, or are you getting frustrated by it? Frame it. Challenge. Got the word challenge in there. Challenge the thought by seeking evidence that contradicts it and reminding yourself of your past successes and capabilities. And what I really like about this one also is when we frame it, especially after we noticed whose permission do I need to let go of this, when we frame it, who else might be able to come in to help us see this? Because especially when we have that inner critic, it can be so hard on us and it can be so aggressive that we quite literally cannot navigate our way out of it. I am a huge supporter of bringing in somebody else, whether it's an angel, whether it's another person, whoever can quite literally support you in that moment. Huge, absolutely pivotal. T for trade it in. Trade the negative thought with a more encouraging. And what I like, and this is how I'm extremely language sensitive, T is there's a very strong reason that it's not transform. When you can trade it in rather than think transform, as in, especially with that word, it's getting so heavy in our culture and it's being used, especially with anything AI related, transform, transformation, transformative. It's just rolling right out. Sometimes the thought is so limiting that to transform it, to go boom and go 180, way too much for somebody, way too much for somebody. But if they can trade it in for a thought that might be a bit more supportive, huge. Because a lot of people, they definitely can't make that massive jump, that 180 of, especially if you're down in the depths and you're thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm a terrible person, and all these awful things that can come up because we are human, to go, I love myself. This is great. It's a big jump. Hi, Mike. It's a very big jump. But to go, right, I'm not the worst person on the planet. Okay. That is an incremental shift. That is a big shift for somebody who's been down there for so long. that has thought that they are the worst person on the planet. So, Mike, I'm going to send this to you if you can't. I don't think you can get it in the chat, so I'll pop it into you. This is the shift protocol that I was just sharing with everybody. And one more time for the people in the back. S is for spot it. H is for hear it. I is for investigate. F is for frame. And T is for trade. And the reason I have a number of protocols, and I have a safe protocol, I have an allow protocol, I have a peace protocol, and they're all slightly different. And they're all very specific for what to do in the moment. For this, the fact that it's on the hand, this is a huge thing because people they have something to connect with. They have this tactile, they have this visual that they can grab onto, quite literally. And you talk about shift, and even as I was talking in my speech yesterday, this protocol will put you back in the driver's seat. It will get you back in control. So even as you're driving, think, especially when your thoughts are spiraling, you don't want your thoughts to be running you. You want to be choosing your thoughts. We want you back in the driver's seat. So with the shift protocol, you grab the wheel again. These are all the ways that my mind works. So I hope you guys found this helpful. Let me know your thoughts. What are you thinking? Might you use it? Any new insights, ahas, feedback? Go for it.
Well,
Mark.
if it's up to me,
Oh, hi,
if
Mark.
it's up to me, this is amazing. I have been in the situation low and can't get out, and it's kind of like when your whole body kind of starts shutting down. You can't see around you. It's kind of like being in the weeds, and the weeds is really all that you can see. You can't see above the weeds. So this is a great way to create an awareness and a break and a pathway to break this cycle and move forward. I love this. I love this, and I wish my life would be much different if I had this years ago. So thank you for bringing it to us now.
Oh, I'm so happy. Yes, that's exactly what we want. We want you to feel that you have control over your thoughts. And I know for sure, Mike, I have been there off in the weeds. And when you're in that spiral, it is tricky. Definitely. And one of the things that I often share with my clients goes back to being language sensitive. When we're in that space of something is criticizing us or this voice in our head is criticizing us, do your best to notice your tone. And when we can talk, when we can quite literally not feel like a crazy person that you're talking to the person inside your head, but when you can manage your tone and when you can gain authority over that inner critic, because your tone is calm, because you're curious and you're not quite literally going, why are you yelling at me again? I always do this. And then you're having like a dual fight in your head, which is really, really fun. Noticing your tone is a huge, huge, huge thing, especially because go from that place of curiosity. And when we talk with our clients, encouraging them to be curious and to share, because when we're talking with our clients, when we're talking with our friends, when we're talking with other people and we sincerely care, never are we going, what are you doing over there? It doesn't happen. We always are caring and curious and concernicist. We're concerned about what they're doing, what they're thinking. You like that word there, Mark?
Yeah.
We're very
Wow.
curious and wanting to help and to allow ourselves the permission that says, I'm listening. What else can I do? And I'm in control. I hear you, and I know you want to scream really loudly. I hear you. I'm in control, though. And it allows you to shift. And this shift, I often think, I used to be like really down in the dumps, and I would think, why aren't I happy? Well, that's going to be really tough to do, Lenora. You really shift, and you have to keep working yourself up that emotional scale. And it's okay. It's totally okay. Go for it, Mike.
Hey, for an individual who has been there so long and now on the way out, it's when I look back, it is amazing how much energy is sucked out of you by all of those negative thoughts. Your negative thoughts are taking up so much energy and spiraling you, and that trap that you find yourself in is sapping your energy away. Just so please, when you find yourself, even when you find yourself kind of going down this road, try to catch it and notice it as soon as you can, and you will save your energy. You'll save so many great decision-making processes. This is gold stuff. Thank you.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more. Try to catch yourself as early as you can and to be kind to yourself. And in catching yourself, you're right, Mike. It totally is an energy zap. And, especially if you're in the art of practicing it well, you will go down quickly. So practice the art of not necessarily going up. Practice the art of remaining neutral and noticing it before you go that low. Because there are times you do go that low. But the beautiful thing is that when you felt so good and you noticed what you did when you felt good, now you have more tools in the toolbox, and it makes a huge, huge, huge difference. I don't know if anybody else wanted to chime in. Go for it, Mark. Yeah, I thought so.
Someone once said, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging.
That's a good one.
But that shift thing is very, I love that. It's, it's again, I have a similar, I haven't done this in a long time, but when someone has that negative self-talk, it could be the voice of authority, and because when we're little, the voices are up here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if somebody's hearing that voice of authority and it's all the negative self-talk, well, again, you got to get them into a playful state and just move that voice of authority to another location, and then give it another voice and another tonality. Instead of that voice, you have that negative self-talk being said by over, oh, you're just terrible, you're a terrible player. And by doing the shift to another location and changing the voice of that negative self-talk, you can kind of laugh at it, because if Grove is telling you you're a piece of crap, you're not really going to buy into that. So, but what you described with the shift is a more complex. I love that, thank you for sharing. But moving that voice of authority, that negative self-talk voice of authority to another location, and then changing the voice into a voice that, you're not going to really buy into, can be very powerful.
Absolutely. And I love that there are so many, and this is a beautiful thing about the work that we do, and just really allowing somebody to walk you through your own experiences, but also people allowing you in to what's going on in their head, because there's no one way that you always have to do it. For some people, absolutely shifting that voice, moving it away, all of a sudden, huge, massive shifts, massive. And that's amazing. And I also love that there are other times where that might not be somebody's bread and butter, but you do it this way and it makes this great shift, of which also leads me, you said it so perfectly, of when you're doing something, I think it was along the lines of when you're doing something well and you were just saying it and I'm losing the words. Do you remember what you just had said, like the last two sentences? Rewind? Where's your rewind button, Mark?
I don't have one. It broke a long time ago. But when you're changing, like you said, the location and the voice that's, previously, like I said, it could be the voice of a parent, could be the voice, that inner, that negative self-talk. When you shift it, like you said, again, it changes everything, and you can't really buy into, like I said, that negative self-talk.
If you buy in,
if it's the voice of Ernie or somebody, it takes away its power to criticize, when you change the location and change the voice.
So this leads me to something else. And Mike, I know you popped in a little bit late, so listen for I choose to buy into. So I had a client today and they were talking to me about their speech and that they didn't feel like that their speech was very clear. And this person that I was working with had crystal clear speech. And especially when you're specifically listening for certain things, you're going to really hone in if there's a slight distortion. Crystal clear speech. And the individual was sharing with me that they didn't feel like their speech was clear. And the more that they started to talk, it was very much that they didn't feel confident when they were speaking. So now I'm curious, how often do we not feel confident in something that we're doing exceptionally well? Adding to that, whose permission do we need to allow ourselves to feel good about it? Take that and sit with it for a little while, especially when it comes to certain things. So, for example, I would think, I'm trying to think of an example and fast enough about myself. And when I started to reflect on this, whose permission do I need to feel good about this? Especially because people can tell you all the time, you're doing great at this, you're doing great. Oh wow, I love this, you're doing that. And you're like, no, I don't feel that way. I don't feel like that. That feeling, especially even if you're like, oh, thanks so much. And you yourself feel like, oh, I just don't feel that. Follow that feeling. Go back to whatever age you might be when that feeling comes up. And you might have to sit with it for a moment and really just allow yourself to tune into it. Okay, well, what age am I? Who am I? Or who is this person in here that doesn't want this? And then ask them, whose permission do you need to let go of this? Or whose permission, what's another one? Whose thought did you choose to buy into that you were not good at this? So very specifically, Mike, I see him. I see you, other Mike. Hold on one sec. We were talking about, I choose to buy into this thought. That was a thought that was really, really helpful for me. When I would go down to these really nitty things that I could not navigate myself out of, I choose to buy into this. Why are you choosing to buy into this? Who made you think you had to choose to buy into this? Playing with that language, especially when it comes to those thoughts that we know we don't want. We know we don't want this thought. I'm confident, but something won't let me let go of it. All right, so hold on one sec. Shoulders, we're gonna go for you. You had your hand up first. Go for it.
Wow. Now I got to comment on Mark's and yours as well.
Oh, did you
Let me
get a
put
pen and
my little
paper?
hand down. No, I'm at the vets.
I
But
know. I'll take notes for you.
Changing the voice. Oh my gosh. So when you do something wrong or you hear something, you screw something up, I can hear the voice of authority,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. and just ripping you, in a bad way and changing it to Bert or Ernie. Oh my God. It's like, oh wow. So anyway, that just really resonated. So very cool.
Awesome. So happy to hear that. Yeah. Changing the tone. Yep. Especially if you like to think that you're the director, you are the music artist, you are the composer. And if you were at the dials, if you were the one shifting the knobs and moving those channels up and down, it really lets you take that and go, ooh, wait, hold on. I want to play with this one a little bit more. Ah, there he is. I think isn't it she? I know. I see you nodding.
Yes. Yeah, she's a C. She
She. Oh, I hope she's feeling
is.
better.
I hope so.
I know. She just sat on your lap the whole way. My friend Mike W. I know you had your hand up. I don't know if you still kept it down.
Well, for me, I have a bit of a speech impediment. What happens is that I store information quickly, and so it's more like a feeling, and then I have to translate that into part of the conversation, and that takes some brain power to do, and
Okay.
because of that, there's that kind of delay of kind of finding the words, and in a social environment that can be difficult when you're talking to individuals who are very comfortable with conversation and this comes naturally. It
Mhm.
doesn't for me. So
Yeah, but it's becoming more natural for you more and more and every day with every beat of your heart and every breath you take.
it is. It
It
is.
is.
And this group, I've been with this, you know, in and out of this group for the last 6 months, and the information here has helped uncover hidden things that were unnoticed and unfound, and has really helped me with that. So
Awesome.
I appreciate that.
I love
But
that. We
it's
appreciate you.
thanks. It's the judgment of who I'm talking to, and the thought and the recognition that they're judging me in my conversational skills, not my mental capacity and
Okay.
capability. And so with that, it is the just being comfortable with being able to bring this forward, and it just it's just the way I communicate, I guess. So, but anyway,
Thank you
yeah, I
for
just wanted to
sharing
bring
that.
that to the table. Yeah, thank you.
We love what you bring to the table. I know your last name is, it says W here, and all I ever think is Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc. Can't not do it. In my head, if it's a comfort, I call Mark Fred and Frank all the time. My
Cool. I
brain makes
thank you
up
for
names sometimes.
that. I love that. I have to get back to work, so
Stay well. Thank you for popping in.
thank you.
Bye. Right, my friend Mark? I tend to call you different names.
Well, you know, Frank is my confirmation name.
Yes,
So,
that's what it was. I know you had
yeah.
mentioned it to me.
But
Go
yeah,
for it.
Mike should turn that into a strength.
Mm, love to
Technique I
message him.
learned is to inside your shoes, just make little fists inside your shoes. It slows down your processing speed. So when you're doing that, you slow down your speech and you pause, and so your answers sound considered, and people think you're more intelligent because you're using pauses,
Very
and you're
cool.
and all you got to do is, like I said, if you're on a podcast, whatever, or you're just in social, nobody knows, can see you wiggling your toes inside your shoes,
Mm-hmm.
and it cuts your processing speed, and you slow your speech, maybe
Yeah.
giving his tongue a chance to catch up with his brain.
Very nice. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
but yeah, whenever you use pauses or slow your speech, people think you're more intelligent.
I definitely,
You know,
I can
so
definitely see that.
when you wiggle your toes inside your shoes, um, nobody can see what you're doing, but it literally cuts your processing speed in half, because you're going to be doing two things at the same time, one physical, one mental, and
Yeah,
it slows down your speech.
very nice. Another one that I'm gonna share with you all is noticing that when you're speaking, allow yourself permission to speak. So often, and I used to be so guilty of this. I would apologize for speaking. Oh, and I would also talk as fast as I could so that I could get my words out really, really quick. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. And I'm going so quickly, and to the point that I would run out of air. And I've had this with a number of clients actually, where they're just automatically telling me all their problems, and I'm thrilled because I want to hear from them. At the same time, I will start speaking even slower so that they can naturally allow themselves a little bit more time. And the other thing is I think this has gotten way worse over the last number of years because we tend to be so quick to swipe and swipe. Something has to catch our attention. And when we're talking with somebody, it's almost like we don't want them to swipe past us. We almost don't want them to to go away. So we're talking so quickly to keep up with them and hold their attention as fast as we can, and then really let it go and go. And then you'll notice it, especially if you're a fast talker. Notice when you're done talking, oh my gosh, I just took that breath. Like, you will notice this. So something that I found really helpful, and I find my clients benefit from this also, is even as you're picturing yourself talking to somebody, whether it's multiple people or it's one person, notice how your breathing changes and notice their facial expression. What might they be thinking? Especially because we can visualize somebody being engaged and wanting to hear from us and really leaning in and listening. And we can also imagine that disconnect where they just kind of glaze over and you're just trying to hope that they don't fall asleep on you. Notice what's happening. And in that moment, go into that moment and talk to you. What do you need to know? Whose permission do you need to ensure that you are heard, that you feel good about being heard, that you're able to speak up for yourself? And I'm telling you, this makes huge, huge shifts, especially because oftentimes it ends up going back to a memory of some sort where somebody was just rushing to get their words out. And that's what they learned to make sure that they got their words out in time. Allow yourself, and this is even something that I encourage my clients to do. I encourage a lot of mirror work. It might be because I definitely have been one of those people that grew up singing with their hairbrush in the mirror and singing, and I encourage mirror work probably because I really thought this was really super fun when I was younger. Holly, and Linda, I know you both can relate to me, and I'm not a total weirdo on this one. But when we're doing mirror work, it can feel weird for about the first 2 minutes. Allow yourself to keep going in and allow yourself permission to practice and to allow yourself the art of communicating slowly, clearly, with pauses, moving your toes, paying attention, and also allow yourself to quite literally see how you are experiencing yourself when you're talking in the mirror. And another one that Maurice put here, what if your processing speed is fast and when people are talking too slowly, you lose interest? That is entirely possible. If you happen to have a faster processing speed and you're losing interest, I would probably look at it as, what's the topic? Is it a topic that I'm passionate about, or are they talking to me about Pokemon? Because I can glaze over real quick if somebody's talking to me about Pokemon. But if they're talking to me about this, I am completely leaned in and engaged. So that's a really interesting question, Maurice. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What do you think, Maurice? I don't know if you're able to come off of mute. We're going to see if Mo can come off of mute. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, you're there. Hi.
Yeah. So for myself personally, I have a really fast processing speed.
You do.
So I tend to talk a little bit faster sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that for me to stay engaged in a conversation, lots of times, I don't have a problem with the pauses and giving people time to process whatever it is that they're going through. That there's a lot of power in the silence. But by the same token, if you're telling me a story and about what's going on and it gets too repetitive or becomes too slow, it's super hard for me to stay engaged inside of what you're going through.
Okay. He raises a valid point. What is everybody else's thoughts? What are we thinking? I'm intrigued. I could definitely see that because there are times where I'm like, is this person going to get to the point anytime soon? So very specifically, I was talking about as the speaker, and I love that he's going from the listener. What are we thinking? What are our thoughts?
Yeah, I have a lot of problems with that too.
Okay, so you're a fast talker and you like people to talk quickly?
I can talk fast or slow.
Okay. I do believe
And
that.
I can listen to people who talk fast or talk slow, but I have, as long as they're talking, there's a cogent point, they're focused and they're going somewhere. But what really gets me is where people haven't given any thought at all to what they're going to say, and they just ramble and then they go, mm,
Exactly.
yeah, Yeah. And
Yeah,
then I
no.
start in again, and I am just absolutely ready to bang my head against the wall. And there is a person I'm in a group with a person who does that. And I mean I mean I want to rip my teeth out. It just drives me nuts. But it's an extreme example, and that's really the only person that really bothers me. But I will admit that people who talk really slow and are not focused, I find that difficult to deal with.
I can definitely understand that. And there was a time where I'd be like, and the grass was green. And I never call, but like, I follow you on that. So if we're an intentional speaker and you want to bring something to the table, I'm going very specifically with the point that you have something to share. Allow yourself, especially in this group, because I love hearing from everybody in this group, allow yourself to come into the group, to be a part. We want to hear you. And if you notice, people want to hear you, but you're still picking it up, you're still picking up the speed, whose permission do you need to allow yourself to calm down? Who's driving that force field going forward that's making you feel like you have to get all of these words out as quickly as possible? So that is my challenge to you all. Notice if you're a fast talkers and allow yourself to speak, but also, and this is one that was very, very difficult for me to break until I finally got it through my head. So I did this for a number of years. And guys, I'm talking like a good 30 plus years. And I'd even go as far to say 35. I would apologize for speaking. Oh, I'm sorry for taking up time. Oh, I'm sorry. Made no logical sense, but it literally was letting me off the hook in my own linear brain world that I gave myself permission to speak and then I apologize. So you can't be mad at me. Made logical linear sense.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Inside of that, when you were doing that, I'm questioning, is there a self-esteem issue that was attached to that? Like maybe you didn't have value to add?
Totally questioning every thought that was coming out of my mouth, even though I knew simple answers. I would definitely completely agree with you, Maurice, that it was definitely a self-esteem thing also.
So
Awesome insights.
one of the things that like people who have had training like we have, depending on who you've been trained by, it makes no difference. But a lot of them, like David's training or whatever it is, we can match and pace the conversation. So even when somebody's talking a little bit slower to us, like I say, if they have no point and they aren't going anywhere with it, that's a whole different conversation. But if they actually have a point, we can match and mirror a lot to keep them on track. What happens in the situation where people who don't have that training are trying to do that with us, maybe if we're not maybe engaged or in tune with the people we're talking to?
If they're not engaged in
But
what you're talking.
we have the training, so it's our responsibility to deal
Mm-hmm.
with what it is we're dealing with, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have that training. So what happens if we are slipping up? Is there anything that any cues? Like sometimes we're just so caught up in whatever it is that's going on, we're not paying attention to how we're coming across. So how do we self-regulate, and what cues do we need to implement in ourselves to make sure that we are in tune with the audience that we're talking to?
That's a great one. What's coming, at least for me, when somebody's talking to me and I'm not giving them my attention. So we're going to use my husband because this is the person that I live with. When I'm in the middle of something, and I'm guilty of this, guys. I'm in the middle of doing something and they're talking to me and I'm catching pieces, but I'm not giving them that individual attention of putting my phone down and having this engaged conversation. A, I get called out for it, which definitely makes me put my phone down. But B, when I'm noticing it, so if somebody's not calling me out for it, I do my best to be aware and keep raising that awareness of, is somebody else in the room that needs my attention? Are they interrupting me? So let's say I'm in the middle of something and he comes down to have a conversation and I can't give him that focus because I'm already on something. I will tell them, I can't talk right now. I have to focus on this because this has my undivided attention. And having that respect. And I think that unconditional positive regard there, Mark. I'm saying I can't do that right now. I know you want this right now. I can't do that right now, so please stand by. And just having that level of awareness and that level of kindness that says, hang tight. I know you want my attention, but also, Lenora, you need to disengage from whatever is really not that important on your phone, and you need to engage and have this conversation, whether it's 5 seconds, whether it's 10 minutes, whatever it may be. But having that self-awareness of this is how I like to communicate, and also this is how the person I'm with likes to communicate. Did that help at all, Mo, or did I completely miss the mark on what I heard?
No, you're basically, to summarize, basically you just need to be more present in your environment, and sometimes it's not always so easy, but it's something we need to continue to work on.
That's at least for me. By all means, jump on in here, Mark.
Um, first of all, something I learned along the way, I think, from one of my mentors, was if you're going to be coming into a group and talking, you want to roughly match their energy level, but be a little bit above and then come back down. So you're like really, a little bit more excited than they are, but you want to, you want to pretty much match their energy level, but be a little bit above it when you're, when you're a speaker. You want to project that, that energy, but you want to match the crowd. And the second thing that what you were saying about the fact that your processing speed, you're always processing things really quick. Well, that toe wiggle will cut your processing speed. And some people do 1 foot, one hand, the other foot, the other hand, and they literally can cut their processing speed by 75%. The other thing is when you're engaging with somebody, like you said, if you're echoing them, again, you can't be in your own head, letting the chipmunks run on the, around the wheel. So echoing sometimes could help. But a question I had, since it's after 8 o'clock, I'll start with the questions. Is I taught a autistic young man the toe wiggle, and autistic people tend to have a lot of tics, bad body tics. They'll tense, they'll do things. Again, they come out with all these coping things. They have a large number of tics. And the weirdest thing, when I taught him the toe wiggle, all his tics went away. It was really weird. And I don't have a good explanation in Mark world for why that happened. So I'd like to get input from the group on why would cutting your processing speed, or just wiggling your toes for this autistic young man, why would all of his tics go away? I haven't been able, it's been years, and I just haven't figured out why that would happen. And maybe with all the brain power I've got with you, with my tribe here, maybe we can all try to figure it out.
Well,
I'm not hearing you.
Thanks. I have two thoughts on that. And in true Triple T hour format, I'm going to allow others to speak because, as TJ often says, I like to learn too. And I completely agree with that. Anybody have any insights for our friend Mark?
I have a question.
In addition to Mark, or another question?
No, a question for Mark.
Oh,
Okay.
Sweet.
You say that the wiggling of the toes, the clenching of the toes, slows the processing time.
Mm-hmm. The speed, yeah.
The processing speed. What I'm trying to dig for here is it really that the processing speed? See, because I think with the autism, they have a lot of those tics because there's a lot of overstimulation, a whole lot of input coming in that is too much for them to handle. Is that correct, or am I off track there?
I would agree with that.
Okay. So what I'm thinking is the root of slowing the processing speed. what exactly is slowing? I mean, is it an input that's slowing? Is it an output that's slowing? Is it it would seem as though there's some type of calming mechanism at work. And I'm probably not expressing it very well, but I'm trying to draw a link between slower processing speed and calming of the nervous system. I think it's linked somehow, but I don't know how.
Again, another way to describe it would be dividing your attention, because to continue to wiggle your toes and talk at the same time, you're dividing your attention between what you want to say and a physical activity that requires a certain amount of attention. So I just use the processing speed as a shorthand, but what you're really doing is dividing your attention. Depends on how many ways you can divide your attention. I guess that could be the beginning of an explanation. Why the ticks went away, but yeah, they're definitely. I think they have a hard. I think the population has a hard time. With their again, getting a lot of input, and that input is very overwhelming, and then they have to develop these ticks to kind of compensate.
Anybody else?
But
Any
that's as
other
far as
thoughts?
they'll let me.
Any other thoughts?
This might be out there, but one of the things that I would think might be occurring is you're dividing their, like you said, you're dividing their attention. So when they're doing that tick, they're nervous, they're focused on whatever it is that they're focused on, that creates that tick and nervousness. But when they start wiggling their toes, when they start doing other things like that, it diverts their attention to something different, which eliminates the tick. Just a thought.
Definitely. I thought it was I'm right on the same wavelength as Linda and Maurice, that you're giving the brain something to do rather than just anything. The other thing I thought was possibly authority, but also giving them permission to have this behavior. Because a lot of the time and even as a clinician, we're saying it's okay. You're okay. Let's do quiet hands. Let's calm down. And you're giving them something to stop the movement, whereas you gave them permission to keep the movement, and it directed it on something that the brain could focus on. Quiet hands is something that we often say, and we literally, okay, let's do quiet hands. This is the time that we're going to listen, so we're going to do quiet hands, and we bring them together. But we're stopping the movement. When they have all this energy, you're quite literally directing that energy to allow it to come out and to go to a very specific area, but also that it's okay. They don't have to think, sit still, which, okay, sit still, don't move, don't move, don't move. And what are you going to do? Don't. You're going to wiggle all over the place. So I think there's a couple of things there, but it's awesome one, because I didn't even think about that very specifically for the autistic clients that I have. But boy, oh boy, am I going to do that now.
Okay, I got another question.
Yeah, I love this. Go for it.
What do you call those little squishy, squeezy ball things that you put on your desk and that people, squishy balls or something? What are
Yeah.
those things called?
Cush.
Cush.
Oh, I call them stress
Kush.
balls.
What is the mechanism that when people, now I've never used those. Now, if they really work, I'm wondering if this isn't the same mechanism. And I say if they really work, because I've never used one, so that's why I just don't know. So it seems to me maybe the same thing is in play there.
Possibly. You have the sometimes people with those ticks, you can get a micro brush, like a surgical sponge, and it has very fine, and they will brush their skin to stimulate entire. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. They use this like a surgical sponge. It has very gentle
A dry
movement.
brush.
Yeah, and it would
Yeah.
and it would really calm them down.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then also when Noah was describing, I'd see people at the institution that were overstimulated, and they'd do this, and it would almost be like self restraint. So they,
Mm-hmm.
it could be very calming to, and you're putting all that energy into holding your hands like this, for an extended period of time. So I don't know. Like I said, these are all hitting close to the target, the bullseye, but I'm still, again, but good questions all.
Very much so. And this is the same thing, especially when it comes to individuals that are neurodiverse or who are autistic. It's not one thing. It's having a toolkit that they have as a resource. And even at the stress ball ones, that's what I used to call them. So I know that Kush, I think, is a brand, but either way, whether they're jelly filled, whether they're sand filled, whether they're foam, it's giving them that feedback, and it's also allowing that energy to release and to come, and they're getting that pressure where even if they're doing this or even if they're moving their toes, there's still some pressure involved. And a lot of the time they like that tactile input. They will also respond really well to weighted vests. Not everyone, but a lot of them will respond really well to weighted vests or weighted blankets so that they have that tactile input going on, because even other tactile input like tags can really set them off, or it can become a stimulant that they'll play with. You'll see like a ribbon of tags and they'll just play with them. And it's really just an access point to help them keep moving that energy, to help them release that energy, to give them something to do so that they have something to focus on. There you go.
Isn't there a mammalian response, a mammalian calming response in with squeezing? Temple Grandin and the cows and the squeeze chutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is a calming thing. Absolutely. That was what's that movie called? But I know I'm pretty sure she was in that movie or somehow closely related to it. Very, very interesting. And she was also a proponent of helping animals, especially cows, I believe, get slaughtered in a different way to help them
Yeah.
calm down as they were going through these
Well,
channels. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Very,
she
very.
was. She did a lot of work with that.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of hers and read all of her books. But when you're talking about the blanket for the autistic children,
Yeah,
that's what I was
even adults get it. Yeah. And they don't have to be autistic. It literally will help them sleep better. And there's interesting research about it, because it's as if you're being wrapped and as if you're being held, and that little bit of pressure can help calm your nervous system.
The way I think she explained it was that in the womb,
Mm-hmm.
we're very tightly held and compressed,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to be still, so that
Oh.
there's a built-in nervous system response to stillness when you're compressed like that. When I don't have any other word than compressed, but
Mm-hmm.
squeezed, whatever. So I don't know, maybe there's some link to that in the stress balls or the ticks. Maybe there's some what I just keep coming back to is somehow calming the nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike, I see you. You just gotta come off mute. I can't hear you. Right? I'm not the only one. And you know what's funny is it does say that you're unmuted. Now you're muted. Oh, are we going through your cellular
How about now?
system? Hey, that's
My
smart
wife muted
technology.
my wife muted the car. It's like, no, I had it muted here. So
You're funny.
it's kind of like the thunder coats for the dogs, for like little dogs. They have a thunder coat that puts them in. That just helps them, gives them support.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then with the toe curling, it's just creating one more job. And so multitasking, it's right on.
Yeah. I forgot about the thunder coat. Totally.
And the lady who did the cows, I mean, she was amazing. And when she did it, it was all about making it calming. So like the way it was before, there was noises, there was all these things that would hurt her ears. And so she kind of like thought like a cow, and that's where they kind of meandered through the maze, and it was a slope and it wasn't slippery or stressful.
Yeah.
So right on.
Oh, I'm so glad you guys know more about that than I do. I have yet to watch it. I only hear amazing things about it. So thank you for sharing that.
I might point out that Temple Grandin, this is the lady we're talking about,
Uh-huh.
was also on the spectrum.
Oh,
She was
yeah.
slightly autistic.
Oh, yeah. Um, I don't think I know there's so many wonderful things that she's shared. So I can't find it fast enough, but I will definitely be looking into that also. In case anybody wants her last name, it's Grandin. And there's a YouTube. It says Temple Grandin on visual thinking and animal behavior. Bet you that's really good. Yeah. Awesome insights, awesome questions, guys. What else do we want to talk about?
My wife got me donuts
Lucky you.
because
That's
we've
true
got this
love.
stressed out little dog. She's all sad.
Hmm.
But it all works out.
Oh, we're gonna send your doggy good energies.
Lots and lots. We appreciate all the love we can get. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anybody else have a topic that we want to share or a question? Appetizers, guys. Go for it, Mark.
How many
Hey,
folks have heard of the wisdom of the crowd?
I have not.
Yeah,
Mike has.
Okay.
yeah, I have.
You know, sometimes, like I said, oh, the guy's an English fella. He's a hypnotist, and he talks to, again. But he was talking about a phenomenon called the wisdom of the crowd, and you have 50 people, give them a sheet of the last 50 lottery numbers, and have them get into a relaxed state, and then pick six numbers, and then you average the numbers, and he was able to get 5 out of 6 in the Irish sweepstakes. Because again, he was able to, like, he took an average of all the numbers that the people had submitted, and like I said, he was able to get 5 out of 6. But the wisdom of the crowd can also apply. I just heard Colin Wilson last night talking about, he was getting up to do a talk in front of a large audience, and he asked them to send him calming energy, just to sit there and to just project, calming energy. And within a couple minutes, all of his anxiety just went poof.
Wow.
So engage the energy of the crowd. I don't know. I just heard about it last night, so I'm just just threw it out there. But yeah, that whole concept of the wisdom of the crowd. I'd like to know what Mike, wherever he went, because he raised his hand. He knew what it was. I just don't.
Yeah.
I just don't remember too. Oh, I'm trying to remember the guy. He had a couple. He has some specials on YouTube. One of them is, he does mass hypnosis with the crowd, and it's, and
Well, I pulled his book up, and you're saying he's on YouTube also?
yeah.
Okay. His name is James Suriki.
No, that's not it. Again, this is
Okay.
again, I can't switch off of my phone to look up my YouTube, but yeah, he did a special called "Something Wicked This Way Comes," and it was he was doing all kinds of um, hypnosis stuff on the entire crowd, but he was
Oh,
talking about the wisdom of the crowd, and like I say, he was able to get a bunch of people to give him, again, each one 6 numbers, and he averaged out all 6 numbers for the entire 100 people, and that was the number he played, and he got 5 out of 6. So the crowd is wise. Individuals, tend to scatter their energy, but I was just
Ray
wondering if
Bradbury,
that's no, that's an author.
1962.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the author. No, this is it's an English name. I'm just not getting
Okay.
it.
That's all
It's
right.
right there.
2
It's on the
a.m.
tip of my
It'll
tongue.
come to you.
Oh, I know. Oh, I
Oh,
know.
yeah.
I'll look at it. But
That's a
yeah,
thing.
but yeah, what Colin Wilson was talking about is, like I said, is just being up in front of a crowd and, not feeling entirely, he had been sick. He had been, and he was and he asked the crowd to loan him their calming energy. And within a very short amount of time, he was, perfectly calm. So,
Yeah.
again,
It's
as human
wild.
beings as a group tend to be able to do incredible things.
There was one that they did a couple of years ago, and this group of people meditated on peace in a very
Mhm.
specific area. And the crime rate went down, things got better, and it's beautiful to look at. And you think, "Ah, gosh, I wish more people did this." And there are some people that will have meditation groups at a very specific time during the day. But I think I heard if something along the lines of if every kindergartner learned how to meditate, there would be world peace or something along those lines. Could you imagine if that was not even imagine if it was true? Could you imagine? I can imagine if it was true. Could you imagine getting so many people on board to support something that would support this many people? I think that's a beautiful thought. And
And children don't have any of the filters that,
yeah,
that adults have to,
yeah,
for them, magic is real. Everything's magical. The entire world
yeah,
is magical. So,
yeah.
Ray Bradbury, Michael said,
That's what
that's
I
not
thought
it.
too.
Like I said, again, I,
We're just throwing out names now.
yeah, no, ah, anyway, but, like I said, it'll come to me after the 5 minutes after the podcast is over. But it was something I threw out there to see if what people knew
Awesome.
about it.
Okay, cool. We'll have to come back to it. Does
Just,
anybody else have? Oh, go for it.
just in case anybody's interested, that meditation project you were talking about, Lenora,
Thank you.
it's called the Maharishi effect. There was the guy who organized it or led the meditation groups with some Maharishi. So if you look up the Maharishi effect, you can see, and they did it, I think, in a couple of different cities. And
Okay.
yeah, crime dropped appreciably.
Significantly, yeah.
It was not random. It absolutely was an effect.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful idea. Thank you for knowing that name. I greatly appreciate it. I wrote it down.
You're welcome.
See, Elijah just popped in. Hi. Does anybody else have another question that we want to play with? Or any insights? If not, you guys know I'm chock full of them. My question to you, and this can just be a self-reflection one. 'Cause I was talking with my husband about popping on tonight, and I'm thinking of different ideas and what, like Saturday and Sunday, my brain was on fire. And then today my brain was like, we're not gonna give you anything. Tennis. Um, so as we were walking, one of the questions was, what is something, so I know I mentioned to you guys about trail running, about just taking that first step, just opening myself up to the possibility. By not taking the first step, what journey might you be missing out on? You can play with that one. I don't know. I think Maurice popped out and then popped back in. I don't know. The question, Maurice, that I had shared was, by not taking the first step, what journey might you be missing out on? If you wanted to explore something, if you want to learn something, maybe it was another language, or you wanted to challenge yourself in a different way. Something, and I definitely encourage people to look at things that they didn't think that they could do, and to really think, well, what might it look like? And one of the first times that this happened to me was probably 2013. And we're out for a hike in New Hampshire. And he goes, oh, we're going to go hike up that. No, we're not. And in the state of New Hampshire, these mountains are huge. They're huge. You start not super below sea level, and I'm trying to think. They're usually called like the 4,000 footers because you're climbing a decent amount of feet on this way up. And it takes a good, depending on your ability to hike, anywhere from 3 to 5 hours just to get up there. And we were hiking up, and I could not believe that this person was asking me to go up that thing. What is the no, I can't. He's like, yeah, you can. And we just started walking. And it was one step after the other. And it quite literally, and it might seem really silly for people who are hikers, I could not perceive myself going up that mountain. I thought for sure I was going to stop halfway. I thought for sure that he was crazy. Maybe there was an escalator somewhere. Who knew? And when I got to the top, and now when you get to the top of these summits, if you can see your car, it's over there, and you're looking at this. You can't even see your path that you got here. You're just looking at a slew of trees because now you're on top of a mountain. You're like, wow, I had no idea. I had no idea. And it quite literally was something that really, really stuck with me. And the next day and the following day, I did a total of 3 mountains. And I think that time frame that we were visiting that, and I was shocked every single time that I did it. And all it took was one step in front of next, one more step, just one more step. And I really found that to be quite pivotal because I wasn't the most pleasurable hiker, guys. This was not when I was super calm. This was not when it was like, oh, look at the birds. This was more like, why are we out here? I keep tripping. What's going on? So even in that discomfort and finding ways to pause and just take it in and go, wow, I did that. Who knew? I like playing with stuff like that because I get to see how I get to maneuver into discomfort. And I'm not a happy person when I'm uncomfortable. It's not always a fun, good time. But to navigate into those and find out what you can do and find out what else you can do and then find out what else you can do the next day. And it doesn't have to be these big monumental things like, oh, I went and got my pilot's license, which it would be cool. But it can just be simple as, you know what? I went into that coffee shop and I completely introduced myself to somebody I had no idea about. And wow, I did that. And just noticing what you did. I love that. Hey, Elijah.
Hi.
How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's great to see your smiling face.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so early in the morning by you?
So I was gonna say another thing about journeys is that you learn something at each step that you couldn't have
Oh,
known before you'd taken it. Like you have an experience, like what is part of the process, and that experience will then inform you on the next step or the next stage, right? So,
mhm.
for example, when I first started learning hypnosis, I there was loads of things I didn't know, right? And then
Yeah,
there's stuff that I learned during my journey, which, that stuff existed, but I didn't know it existed.
yeah,
And only after having started learning hypnosis that I learned, oh, this other thing exists, like I don't know, like Chinese face reading, for example, right? That you learn that that exists. You didn't even know that was a thing, and then you decide, oh, I want to learn, I want to dabble a little bit in that, and then that kind of edits and shapes your journey
yeah,
and redirectionalizes you a little bit more. So sometimes when you're standing at the bottom where you say like, oh, you're below sea level and you're looking up at that height, you think there's no freaking way I'm gonna. But what you don't know is after, a mile you might learn something
yeah,
that will help you on the rest of the climb, right? So a lot of times people have trouble getting started because it just feels so overwhelming. But what I would say to those people is the fact that it's so overwhelming means you're onto something big. right? And that you're going to get something really big out of it.
Yeah.
So now that you've acknowledged that the thing you're going to get out of it is big and it's going to be worth doing, now you can stop looking at that because it's just going to overwhelm you. So just kind of put that off to one side and let's just focus on this step, right? And after this step, what did we learn? And then the next step, and just that step. And after that step, what did we learn? And the moment you can answer that question, what did we learn, with something, you're like, oh, yeah, I didn't know that before. And then that better informs you going forward, and you're gonna make the journey quicker than you thought you would when you were standing at the bottom looking up, going, oh my God, that's a long way up. There's no way I'm gonna go get, oh my God, right? That's
I
it's gonna
love
end up being
that.
much better and much easier because you don't know what you don't know yet. And you're gonna be so much more powerful once you figure it out soon.
I love that. Oh my God, I'm so glad that you said that.
Yeah.
Learn something at each step. And I love that you also pointed out a mile in, a
Yeah,
week
you
in,
might be
2 weeks in, a
a
month
mile in.
in.
You might, yeah,
You,
exactly.
yeah,
You might be you like, I didn't learn about Chinese face reading till I was 3 years into learning hypnosis,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um,
Oh, so now even rewind the question. What might you be missing out on if you didn't take the first step?
right. It's a whole lot more because you don't know what you don't know yet,
No, you don't know. And
right?
I love the one that you say about, what do you say about uncertainty? That you don't know what you don't know. It's totally right in there. When I would say, I don't know. And you say, you don't know, do you?
Yeah, that's right. You don't know.
S-
And the thing is, right, even though you don't know, you're smiling right now. Are you not?
I am.
Right? And oh, like I can't, I can't, and I won't tell you why I asked that question, right? But
I just want to pause
it's
really quickly. Notice, and for anybody who's been listening so far, Elijah is amazing with the pauses. He's the king of pauses and intentionally keeping you on each last syllable. Keep
well, thank
going.
you for that.
You are.
No pressure. You know, yeah, I think okay, I will tell you because it's not fair to bring it up and then not tell you, right? Even though you're the one who brought it up, so it's a bit unfair to me. So,
Oh no, I'm sorry.
but
I don't want to be
basically
unfair to you.
what it is I when I notice someone says that they don't know, and I say, well, that's right, you don't know, do you? And they're smiling, I point out to them that they're smiling as they said that
Hmm.
they don't know, they're smiling, and I ask them how their body feels. So kinesthetically, how does your body feel right now? And
Okay.
if they're smiling, there's a really good chance that their body's going to be feeling okay.
Yeah.
They're going to be feeling all right. They're not going
Yeah.
to, because they're smiling, right?
Yeah.
Um, and really, and that's as far as I go with it. I just move on to the next thing. But really, what I'm doing is I am communicating to their subconscious, to their unconscious mind, that it's okay for you to not know. You can not know and still be feeling okay. You can not know and still be smiling. Like
Yeah.
I'm saying that to them without saying it to them.
Good. Now, my question to you is, do when you say it, you often say it in a very in your quite literally the sound that you make is in a very happy way. You don't know, do you? Like almost like you're giving a Christmas present, like you don't know what's in
Well,
here.
okay, so what
Are you
that
doing that
is,
intentionally?
if you want to get into it, what that is me modeling. So there's this whole thing about
Okay.
matching and mirroring and
Yeah.
rapport and stuff like that, right? So
Mhm.
I'm modeling it for them. I'm modeling the answer for them. That's all right. You don't know, do you? So by being happy and kind of light about the whole thing, I'm because we have rapport, they're also going to be happy and light about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like if I want to confuse someone out of their problem, I
Oh my God, you're so good at it.
I have to become genuinely confused where I'm not quite wait, what were we talking about? We were the thing you said earlier.
Yeah.
I just But you see how when I go into it, you're like, hold on, what's he doing? Even though you know I'm doing it, there's a part of you that's like, hold on, wait, is that really what he's doing? Is there something? And you start getting confused because I'm confused,
Yeah.
right? And so all it is using the rapport. So if I say something to them in a happy and, kind of light-hearted frame or light-hearted from a light-hearted place, and the emotion
Mm-hmm.
I'm displaying is like that, kind of
Mm-hmm.
going chilled out, then they're more likely to also be feeling that same emotion because we
Mm-hmm.
have rapport,
Yes, absolutely.
right? That's all
Absolutely.
that is. That's
Love
all
that.
it is.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Elijah. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Do you have any questions? Anybody else want to pop in with questions? I know Mark over here, our friend Mark, put in Darren Brown when it was about not when it was about something wicked this way comes. I believe he found the name. We found the name. Awesome. And it wasn't 2 a.m. It might be almost 2 a.m. Elijah's time, so maybe it's somebody's 2 a.m.
137.
Oh, almost 2 a.m. God love you. I love that you pop on. You're like the night owl. I see you, Mike. I didn't know if you were popping on with a
Can't stay
question.
away, You guys are too awesome. You guys have this magnetic pull on me, whether you know it or not. Can't stay away.
We love it.
Michael, hi Michael.
Hey, bud.
Anybody else have any questions? I do have another one in here if we wanted to pass this one around.
Before you do that, I was going to go
Yeah.
back to the very first thing you brought. Actually, I think it was the second thing.
Awesome.
Your self-talk with the most expensive real estate we have is between our ears and
Oh,
controlling our state, because I mean that's where everything's at. So
nice. Yeah, and it's especially when a lot of when I first started to learn about state control, I thought it was kind of like how to get your mood up, how to get in the zone, how to really like fire yourself up for a workout or fire yourself up for a presentation. And what I've now understood more about state control is being aware of your emotions, being aware of how you respond to other people, but also truly taking care of your emotional state and wanting that to be such a priority that you acknowledge it and you cultivate it and you share it with other people. And you also know when somebody else is coming over with their energy and coming in and rattling your emotional state. And it's something to really be aware of. And I encourage people to be aware of it. And it's
that leads,
something to study for sure.
that actually leads hand in hand with inspiration versus motivation.
Oh,
Thank you. You motivate yourself, to go work out, but if you're inspired, then it's contagious and can more people,
mm-hmm.
and it'll keep you going.
Nice. And did she bring you a donut?
She brought me a
She,
fresh tortillas.
so thoughtful. Um, do we know by any chance? I know inspiration is to take that inspire. It's an internal movement. Motivation, is that technically the external? I don't know if we knew the origin of it or
I would agree with that.
Is
okay.
it not the other way around?
I thought inspiration was to take inspired action, that something quite literally came in and you literally popped up and took that inspired
Right.
action.
So when
Inspired.
you're inspired by something external, right?
I thought it's
No,
because it
internal.
inspired you internally. Hi,
Motivation
Gary.
is external.
So, but wait, hold on. So I'm sorry. I have to just like, I want to understand for my own benefit, right?
Yeah.
If I'm inspired by somebody, is that not extrinsic motivation?
I think you can be motivated by somebody. The inspiration comes inside. So you maybe first have the motivation, and then it lights the fire inside.
But the cause was from outside.
The spark may have been from the outside, but the inspiration's internal. That's what keeps you going. Whether, it's raining outside, well, I'm still inspired. I'm going to keep going. Motivation will fade, is what they say.
Okay.
So I've been misunderstanding the word inspiration like my whole life, literally until now.
Yay, triple D. It's awesome. I love when we get new insights.
That's
So
awesome.
so a quick Google. Do you want me to read it, or do we like where we've landed?
Go on, go on.
Okay. And there is another one by inspired action is action that comes from your godly self, according to Neville Goddard. And this one also says inspired action refers to taking action that is motivated by a deep sense of purpose, passion, and inspiration.
Okay, but what does it say about inspiration, not inspired action?
Okay, I see the difference.
I have one here.
I'm with Mike. Oh, go for it. I'm with Mike that it's an internal.
I just Googled, it says, what's the difference between motivation and inspiration? Inspiration represents something that compels an individual to take action, often connecting with their feelings or values. It can spark ideas, then form actions that take things to make. Motivation represents giving an individual a reason to take action, often serving as a method or percussion. Or persuasion, excuse me.
Okay.
That help,
Noted.
Elijah? Does that help? Awesome. Super excited. Super excited. I know the lovely Fran and the lovely Elijah popped in a little bit later. What I popped in the chat was the shift protocol that I had shared with everyone earlier during the first hour, and I did not want you to miss the download. So there it is. We have 17 minis left. What other things would we like to talk about? What would we like to question? Polite squirrels and chipmunks. I have one if you guys want one. All right. Becoming unattached from the outcome. How do you do that? Especially in a world where we're constantly wanting so much and we're constantly thinking, oh, but I want to experience this. How do you become unattached to the outcome? Especially when we're talking about manifesting.
That's like one of the hardest things I ever learned. And to be honest, I'm still not perfect at it.
Love your honesty.
It's no, because it's difficult, dude. It's difficult to not be attached, especially when you care so much about certain people and certain things and certain ideas and philosophies. It's very hard to not be attached. The way I see it is, everyone here know Amanda Palmer?
No.
She's like a stage entertaining singer songwriting person. She does like comedy songs and stuff.
Okay.
Right?
I do not know her.
She had this song, I Want You, But I Don't Need You.
Okay.
Right? And it's basically a song about love where she's trying to say to the other person that I want you and I want you to want me to want you, but I don't need you, and I definitely don't need you to need me to need you. Right? And that's
I feel like it was like
the lyric
late
of the
90s, early
verse.
2000s.
Yeah, well, I don't know when it was.
Okay.
But you can look it up in your own time. It's a little bit, it has some adult language in there, so
Okay.
not necessarily safe for playing at work and stuff. But yeah, Amanda Palmer, I want you, but I don't need you. Look it up in your own time. And it's
Okay.
fantastic. It's basically what I feel is this I need minutes to gather. Michael, you
Okay.
go. I'm gonna think about what I'm gonna say.
All right.
Love that.
It's right there with it. Last week's training that we had. When you have somebody who says, "Yeah, I don't need your help anymore," and as a someone who's trying to help them
Mm,
that they actually do need your help. But everyone has their own lesson to learn. And when you detach yourself from the outcome, see what
okay.
happens and see where they grow, and they'll come back if it's meant to be.
Okay. I do remember that one last Triple T. Go for it, Mark. I see you.
The being divorced from outcome is a special kind of indifference. Okay.
Okay.
And when you're divorced from outcome, that the phrase indifference is the difference that makes the difference makes a whole lot more sense.
Okay. So that once more, being divorced from the outcome,
Being divorced from the outcome technically is indifference, but it's a special
indifference.
kind of it's a special kind of indifference because someone once said, smarter than me, indifference is the difference that makes the difference.
Okay.
You focus on the work rather than on the outcome. But it's a special, you don't want to not care about the
Mm-hmm.
work. You want to not care about the outcome. So, that was a very powerful phrase that I stole from somebody. I can't remember who. But indifference is the difference that makes the difference. But it's a special kind of indifference where you're divorced from
Nice.
outcome.
Okay. The way that you said that made me think of in the movie, I don't know if anybody's seen it, and this is definitely one of my favorite movies, Eat, Pray, Love. And the lead actress is saying she's now divorced from her husband, and she's saying, but I miss him. And the guy goes, so miss him, send him light and love every time and just let it go. And that's how it hit me when you said that, Mark. Yes, Miss Linda. Oh,
There is an author by the name of Sean Webb. Seanwebb. Sean
okay.
Webb. He wrote a book called Mind Hacking Happiness. And the folks at the Monroe Institute were impressed enough, they actually have him teaching there now.
Nice.
So, what Sean's basic premise, and I'm probably going to butcher this,
I love it.
is that if you have like a bullseye and the things at the center of the bullseye, the outcome's really important to you. And as you go farther out the bullseye, things are less important to you. The trick to detaching from an outcome is literally to make it less important to you and to move it to the edges of this bullseye, as it were. So you're taking it from the center of your if you had a priority list of things that are important to you in your life,
Mm-hmm.
you to detach yourself from an outcome, you just move it further down the priority list in terms of what is critical to you in your life. And he breaks it down. It's very cool. So I didn't really do it justice, but I think for anybody who's interested in that, it would be well worth the read.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. The way that you said it and the way that I heard it was in detaching yourself, make it less important, as in that would be nice, but I'm okay if I don't have it.
Yeah, and my life isn't going to end, and my job won't end, and so basically what you do is you drill down to uh the things that are most important to you, and then maybe weigh the two against each other, as it were.
Okay, cool. Cool.
I don't think that's a particularly good explanation, but yeah, you got it.
Got the gist.
You're just putting it into a framework and a reference of what's really important in life and realizing that, you're going to survive and be fine without this outcome. But, you got to really, really believe it.
Nice. Okay. Fran, I did see you pop up your lovely hand. I didn't know if you wanted to share.
Then I found that I was stumbling over the potential words. So, but my point is that I think you can get to a state of simultaneously caring and not caring.
Okay.
And this is kind of a state that I think people who've had teenagers in their lives can kind of relate to that. You have to allow people to be themselves, but you still care of them about them and have to take the emotional investment back. It's the art of letting go of the emotional investment, which gives you the okayness to let go, to let it be, to not care about the outcome.
Love that.
And
Beautifully
you can,
shared.
and when you're divorced from outcome, like I said, people have power over you when you're so attached to outcome. And when you divorce yourself from outcome, now you become empowered.
But what is the attachment to it? It's emotion.
Mhm.
So if you focus on the emotion, which is a very flexible and fluid thing, depending on the day, depending on your mood, depending on how much sleep you've had, depending on what other influences there are in the day. Emotions are fluid, so you can do something about that if you choose.
Hi. I see you,
Kids can
Elijah.
tug on your heartstrings,
Yeah.
emotional heartstrings, and again, again, that again, you have to, you can do what you know is right when you've got teenagers, regardless of, anyway, I'm getting bunged up with the words, but that, you know, that, separating from outcome, I think is very powerful.
Elijah, did you have something? I saw your hand up.
Yeah, just listening to all of this and reevaluating my own understanding, like, live learning, if you like. I kind of realized that there's a difference between your overall outcome and the outcome of this given situation where you are now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So say, for example, I'm doing, I'm trading, right? Okay. And my outcome is to be a consistently successful trader, right? Who makes money from trading. Okay. However, if I get too invested and too attached to this particular trade,
Yeah.
right, then I might go bankrupt. Okay. So there's a separation between this outcome here and now that I'm going through this very experience versus my overall outcome, right? I can still be, I don't know if attached is the right word, but, chasing my overall outcome and wanting to be a successful trader. Or let's say I'm looking for a, let's, let's make a ridiculous statement and say I'm looking to get married, because I'm not actually looking to get married. But let's say I was looking to get married, right? It's okay for me to still want to be married and still be searching for someone, but not necessarily be overly attached to the girl I'm talking to right now, right?
I
To
can see
still
that.
have
Okay.
that willingness within me to walk away if she doesn't fit the criteria. The whole
Mm-hmm.
teacher talks a lot about aces and kings and queens,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So like if she falls short, that I still have that willingness to walk away, and I don't
Yeah.
get too attached here because she's almost right but not quite.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I've just made that distinction in my head between overall outcome and current mini outcome,
Nice.
you know?
There were two things, current mini outcome. There are two things that you had shared. And oh, bananas. One of them, and I think you had oh, Mike, this goes back to the emotional state control, because we can get so wrapped up in it, but I love that Fran reminds us that emotions are fluid. And you said something, you said live learning, and I don't know if you slipped it up. I heard it as
No, I meant I
there's
was learning live. Like right now, you're
I
seeing
know.
me learning in real time.
To me, there's now I'm gonna
Like,
play with words.
go
There's
on.
live learning and alive learning, like alive as in actively engaged and really making, like, it feels more like an alive type learning that you're experiencing right now, because yes, we're live, but this really has had movement for you. This is really, you can see your wheel shifting and things going differently, so it feels much more alive than just live.
Maybe. I'm not attached to that
Language.
outcome. I'm not
Um,
attached to that one.
ba-dum-bum. Love that. Awesome. So, so excited. And Mike put in here for Mark. Mark was talking about the special kind of difference that makes the difference. And he was talking about indifference is the special kind of difference that makes the difference. And the lovely Mike popped in. Mike, do we go by Mike or Michael, by the way?
Mike or Michael. Just don't call me
Okay.
late for food.
Ba-dum-bum. He put in here, keeping the main thing is the main thing.
Right, which is what I was saying about mini outcome versus big outcome.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like this is another one of the things.
I
There was
love
all these
language.
things happening at once, and I had this like aha, maybe
Gotcha.
I'm attached to the wrong part of the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could be attached to the like. Is it
Are you
okay?
inspired, Elijah?
Let me ask this question. Let me ask this question. Is it okay for you to be attached to the, you know, because they say detachment is where power is, right? But is it okay for me to be attached to like the grand dream of myself one day? I can be attached to that, right? Yeah.
And
So
that
what's the difference between that attachment and this attachment which we're trying to let go of? Can someone explain that to me? Just so I can confirm what I think I just learned.
So I think what they're talking about with attachments, like for example, I do sales. And if I'm talking to somebody and I'm trying to sell them, I've got to come across like, dude, I really don't care if you purchase this or not. It's not going to put I'm not going to starve if you don't do this. You've got to care more about it and your future than I do. And so the detachment in that situation, it's kind of a takeaway saying, hey man, I get paid regardless. And if you take advantage of it, it's a great thing for you and your family. If you don't, that's your choice. So does that make sense?
following your thoughts, I have more
Mhm.
thoughts. I see Mark's hand going up also.
I think what Elijah's talking about, I mean, you can get attached to the big things, becoming the person you've always wanted to become, and get
But not the
attached to.
how.
No, you don't want to focus on the how. Like I said, that goes to Simon Sinek and the golden circle. Like Apple's golden circle is we're gonna challenge the status quo. The how and the what and how we do that is less important. You don't have to be attached to a particular product or whatever. It's the core, of the golden circle is, you know, becoming, the best version of yourself, or, becoming the person you always wanted to become. That's okay to become attached to that. Again, and in some cases, like I said, the big things, the big grandiose things, I think it's okay to become attached to who you're becoming each and every day. But getting attached to the little, the little things that can steal your power, that really, you don't want to do that. But the big things, it's kind of okay to, try to do that. I think that's where you were heading.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like that they just delineated the how. Because it's almost like you
Yeah,
can
because
still enjoy
you
this.
can't if you attach to how, then you become too rigid.
Yeah. And I don't know anything about Simon Sinek and the Golden Circle, of which now I definitely want to go look at that. But it almost feels like this thing that you're wanting to manifest and that you're intending to manifest. You can kind of put that in a gold circle and let go of the how. So and detach from, is that detaching from the outcome of how it happens?
How it happens. Like I want
Okay.
The
to
why is in the
let's
center.
let's say I want to be wealthy, and that's why I'm trading in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I want to become consistent, successful, and that's what I'm saying. So like I, if you recall, I said I want to be a consistently successful trader.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say I want to be wealthy,
Okay.
right? Because if I say I want to be wealthy, then I could become wealthy through
Other
trading,
means.
well, but I could also become wealthy through other means, like you say, right?
Yeah.
And so the universe or my unconscious mind might turn around and provide me the wealth without me actually becoming good at trading, which is the thing I actually want.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I say I want to become a consistently successful trader. That's the outcome. The wealth will follow almost like an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If I can consistently trade well and make correct decisions in moments of high pressure, right,
Yeah.
then the money will follow almost as an afterthought. You don't really like if you one of my mentors who was trading is sit down and watch him, right? And if you sit across from him and he's doing like a 2 hour, 3 hour trading session,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way you can tell by looking at him whether he's $10,000 up or $10,000 down. That's how strong his state control was, and that's how strong he was just like trying. He's so hell-bent on trading correctly that the money was not important so much. It was more about, am I making the right decision? Right. And because he got so good at making the right decision, that's when he eventually became wealthy.
Nice.
Does that make sense?
That does make
I think I
sense.
kind of went off the beaten path for a minute, but yeah.
Awesome. All right, last one. Mike.
All right, right there with that, Elijah, two things. Be careful with your words, because when you want, that's asking for something and not receiving it. Now, desiring it, that's different, because desiring, that means it's within your grasp, it's coming your way, but wanting is you're left wanting. So if you want to be wealthy or you want
Okay.
to have the money,
To
no, I
that, I will
desire
say
it.
one thing. To that, I will say one thing. It's
Yes,
okay if I know that that's what I'm doing,
Ooh,
true.
right?
But I'm
If I'm
just telling you,
internally aware that I am misusing this word, then it's okay to misuse the word. Yeah,
exactly right. I
right.
agree with that.
amazing awareness. All right,
How
my
about you
lovely,
guys?
lovely
Y'all are
friends.
awesome.
You are all absolutely amazing. In true Triple T form, we will cut the time here, unfortunately. Thank you all so, so much for being here and for being on Triple T tonight. You guys rock my world. I adore you to pieces. TJ, we hope you enjoyed this episode. And hello to TJ's mom, who I believe is watching live on YouTube. You guys make my life better. Thank you, thank you, thank you for spending time with me here today. Or tonight, I should say.
Thank you, Lenora. Good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you,
See
Eleonora.
you
Good
in
night.
7
Good
days.
night, all.
Night.
Y'all have a
Stay
good week.
well.